What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I am joined by a, I mean, she's on her route to becoming a living legend in Japan, representing seedlings. She's the one, the only Amazon, Ayesha Raymond. What's going on?
I was just checking myself out in the camera there. I was actually quite impressed. I was just looking at
Ooh,
this.
very
I know.
good. Not much. It seems like you've gotten gains since you've been in Japan. Not to say that you didn't before, but I'm just saying there's levels to this ish, and you look at least aesthetically levels above.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
man. So what we're doing here is we're reviewing Netflix's Trainwrecked. It was a documentary about Woodstock '99, the ill-fated, much maligned Woodstock '99, and it's weird because not until you brought it up to me, I didn't realize that we had reviewed a HBO version of the same event.
Yes,
Right?
you did.
Yes. Yeah, should remember that, but I don't. I was like, oh, I even forgot watching it. Which it's more of like there's so much content out in the world that I just that
Don't
happened.
try to sugarcoat it. I'm sorry, HBO. We're
I'm
sorry.
gonna I'm gonna try and sugarcoat this so much that I got a damn glucose monitor right at my side. I'm gonna jab myself with insulin. But in any event,
Oh,
shout out to the diabetics. I don't know if that's ever been said, but yeah, there you go. You deserve a shout out, you diabetics. You crazy people, you. But again, train wreck. Holy smoke! This was. I don't know. Well, first
a
off,
train wreck.
yes, it is. It is, and you. What I wanted to get from you, right? Because obviously, Michael Lang, he is the creator of the first Woodstock '69. Tried to do it in '94, just didn't work, but had, you know, fabulous, people on the bill like the Beastie Boys and the Woodstock '94 um, lineup was really good if you're a music fan, right? And it didn't work. It just, it couldn't draw if you fucking rolled it in shit. Is what I'm trying to say, right? Uh, for whatever reason. So they tried 5 years later in '99, and it's it's weird, man. Like I don't know what Michael Lang's place in history is for me, because if you base it on just on like Woodstock '90, I mean '69, he's this like almost cherubic face, curly haired, innocent. Like he has this like leather, uh, what is it, cut off vest and everything like that, and he's looked at such great artists as Santana and Hendrix for the time, like so many iconic like artists, right? And Michael Lang is almost treated in reverence, like almost like a Bob Geldof of sorts, doing the Live Aid on the other side of the pond, right? So this one, he's a little bit more vicious, not Sid, but definitely vicious. Like the Woodstock '99 was just a way to capitalize on the name of Woodstock, the intellectual property, if you will, and yeah, it was just a money making venture. But what is your take on Michael Lang?
Well, because it was kind of useful for this documentary because they flash back to him in '69, and he was very love, peace, no war, and very young as well, which probably helped the situation. So he at the time wanted to do this for a very good reason, and then like you said, when it came to '99, the entire thing was completely bought out. The whole thing was more about brands and, as they say, buy my T-shirt. So to an extent, it became about money. And I don't know, you can kind of see it in his eyes from '69 versus '99 that he became, like you said, a little bit more vicious. He jumped in with those sharks of the corporation and almost tried to or had to become one of them to survive, from what I saw.
I don't want to speak ill of the dead, right?
Yeah,
Because
he
at the
did pass
end,
away 3 months after this, so
right?
yes, you know.
Yes, but it's weird because I always wonder about these characters, right? Where um, Woodstock '69 happened, then again '94, and then '99, right? What was he doing in between? Was he just licensing? Like how, assuming the place where they filmed Michael Lang's portion of this talking head segments and whatever, um, he lived in a nice house. I mean, for all the all what we could see on the documentary, where he was seated, and he walks into a frame at the beginning of the documentary. It's he lived in a nice place, like Florida window, Florida ceiling, open doors and a field, and I don't know where the hell he was living, but I mean, it looked like he was a bit well to do. But the fact that, and especially in an era, post COVID where everybody was on tour, theoretically, he basically had like three big festivals, right? I mean, named the same. But in retrospect, like we've had Lollapalooza, we've had, I mean, from '69 to '99, right? Lollapalooza, Lilith Fair, Wacken, the Crossroads Festival. Like, there's so many big events. Like, why is this one so iconic in most people's minds and hearts? And I'm one of them. Like, but I'm knowing the insight or the lack of candor that Michael Lang went into this with. Like, I'm all like, why did I like this so much? Like, why
Do you
is it?
mean the brand of Woodstock or just
Yeah,
99?
Woodstock. Yeah,
Because Woodstock was the first time everyone came together in the 60s. I mean, the greatest era of music that you could ever possibly think of. And it was people coming together for music, for the arts, in terms of peace. With all the chaos that was going on at the time, it was everybody coming together for peace. I mean, the original festival had free food. Free. Not $4 a bottle, not $12, free food. Um, you had artists from around the world coming to show their pieces and probably donate art. You had artists in terms of music coming together for love and happiness. And then you had 94 and 99, which I personally think because of the loss of 94, which is why he became so vicious for 99. I think that's what happened, honestly.
yeah, there might be something to it, but it's again, I just think it's wild how in, well, I mean, from '69 to '99, we got what, 79, 89, 99. So in 30 years, of course, a person can change, and evolve in terms of their character, but like to be so diametrically opposed to what you were and what you're known for, like that's just weird to me, right? Like you're
Maybe
like
he just grew up.
grew up in capitalism.
Yes.
Okay, well, and yeah,
Unfortunately, everybody like becomes that person after a while. Can't be a good person forever,
no,
unfortunately.
and not to say, I mean, I'm sure in Woodstock '69, there's some, stagehand or whatever that probably didn't have the best of things to say about Michael Lang, right? Even then, but again, hindsight is 2020. All the bumps and bruises, so to speak, that are in a person's personality and makeup, character makeup. Well, like if they die or whatever, like we gloss over that, like any mundane fights, mundane whatever, that gets glossed over when they do something heroic, or if a person dies. I think those are like the two things, right? So uh I really don't know what to make of this character. But I mean, obviously, we're streamed on wrestling channels. Right off the bat, we had a soon to be WWE champion making a cameo. Do you
I
want to
didn't even
reveal
notice.
this
Yeah,
person?
that, the one with the Wiz. Yeah, so thank you. But I didn't notice until you told me. I was like, oh yeah. Sorry, Wiz. But yes, we got a nice little intro of Woodstock 99. Whoa! From the Miz. So it was interesting to see that once it was pointed out to me. Again, I deeply apologize.
And it's weird. And shout out to Coach Rob. Coach Rob approved. I dig it. Mick Mac, our friend from Australia, care of Eric Bischoff. He says hi. Hi, Mick Mac. Good to see you, good sir. But
Hi.
yeah, we got the Miz. Which it's funny because like a few. This is maybe like a 16 to 18-year-old Miz, right? Or a young Mike Mizanin, right? And he's like, Woodstock 99, whatever. And this would be maybe within 5 years of him actually being on Real World New York, right? Where we first see the Miz character, right? As he's running through the Real World house on MTV and everything like that. And, within about 10 years of him getting into wrestling. So, and it's funny because I just saw him. I went to the WrestleMania 39 gimmick, I guess, what is it? The kickoff party and whatever. And him and Maurice were there and got a big balls chant, going down and whatever. And it was weird to see him here again because I think I've had enough Miz. Not that there's anything wrong with Miz, but I just
I've
I'm
had
okay.
enough. You, you've
Yeah,
had enough.
I've seen young Miz and I've seen present Miz like live in person, and I'm okay, cool, man. Good, kudos to Miz, man. He's figured out a way. When you think about, during his tenure, all of the people that have been released and or have died, that had a
Why,
WWE contract. I'm just saying, he figured it
why,
out.
why did that come with a laugh?
I don't know, but it's just like maybe I don't know. Like if Miz goes to the I don't want to say, but there's a biblical land mass that is getting fought over, and it has been whatever, and they're like, oh, if there's peace there, whatever. I think they send Miz there and like the whole thing, and then Armageddon comes, and not the WWF pay per view. It's just I don't know. I think Miz is that guy. Yeah, I'll just say. But okay, so starting out, what did you think of the fundamental shift between the ideology from 69 to 99? Like the money, like we
Um,
we want money.
it wasn't Woodstock anymore. Like I agreed with the angry. I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. The angry lady who was previous at Woodstock, and she was just honest. This wasn't Woodstock. It had nothing to do with Woodstock anymore. Horribly, no disrespect to anybody that likes him, but just seeing the essence of P Diddy like strolling through backstage, I was just like, I was just like, this is no longer about people coming together, especially when you dump, teenagers and 20 pluses, probably even 30 pluses, in the middle of an airbase, boiling hot temperatures, filthy surroundings, and try and extort them for money that probably wasn't even theirs.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the lady in which you're speaking of, I don't. Forgive me, I can't remember her name, but essentially, her daughter was Pilar, and Pilar was tasked as uh, Michael, the organizer's personal
Assistant.
assistant, right? And the mom, she was a photographer in Woodstock 99. I mean, in 69, but they didn't really say what she did, or she was just going to support her daughter, or they didn't give her a role in 99. But, kind of
She gave
poignant.
herself a role though.
Oh, yeah.
She became the Peanut Crew.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I mean, you spoke on the the where Woodstock '99 took place, right? So, um, a stark departure from '69, where it's an open field, upstate New York. This one was like a bloody military base, so like an industrial complex, right? And it was just like asphalt everywhere. Nobody. It's like this is one where like it was something that was made for people theoretically and to take people's money, but no actual grace for people. Like a hot tarmac, you know, uh, you're basically confiscating any bit of food, water, sustenance, whatever. Gate, cutting corners in terms of security. They had the ruffians. Like it's as if you like sent hooligans, football hooligans, and you're like, here, wear a peace shirt, and you're the peace force or whatever the hell. Like it was like the worst of the worst got tasked to become security. Like there was some like they didn't even have enough food to kind of withstand, the 3-day festival, and yet they were
Food. They didn't
confiscating
have
every.
enough water.
Yeah, absolutely. But then they were confiscating people's water and all that stuff, and it's just like,
And
ah,
probably
ah,
selling it back to them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in hindsight, and also this is weird too because I mean, think of what we were as a society in '99. I think this happens pre 9/11, right? I think maybe Columbine had happened here in the states. Uh,
It's the
the,
year before we all thought the world was going to end.
right,
I
absolutely, yeah,
think.
yeah. And then we hadn't had like I mean, there were festivals, right? There were Lilith Fair, had happened in, like a couple years before, all female, lineup and everything like that. Still, to me, one of the overlooked when you look at when you got like Bonnie Raitt and Sarah McLachlan and Alanis Morissette. Holy shit! To me, sign me up. I love all of those artists. Like, and they get overlooked in the Lollapalooza and the Ozfest and Hyperbole. Um, but also, they're up. We just went through like during the pandemic era, they had Astroworld. Travis Scott's deal in Texas, right, where multitudes of people, you know, have had passed away, and it's wild because there's so much heinous shit that's happened since that it's just kind of glossed over to the point where, like, when we decided we were going to do this, I literally saw on TMZ like, "Oh, Travis Scott performs for the first time since Astroworld," and I'm like, "Fuck, dude!" I thought nobody would want to see this fuckhead again, but yeah, well,
You
yeah.
say that, but everybody will pay for money. You say
I,
that.
I'm just saying, yeah. So yeah. I mean, we this was at a almost a time of innocence, right? And a lot of that innocence got nullified. Specifically, there's I guess what the that song, the Don McLean song, the day the music died, right? Where Buddy Holly, Big Bopper, and Richie Valens die in a plane crash. Elvis goes to the army. What is it? Jerry Lee Lewis, marries his 13-year-old first cousin. So that
Yes.
rock and roll as we know it, kind of died. And to me, this was almost that too, because now, bands like Rage Against the Machine, who are currently on tour, funny enough, um, they've been lampooned because you're Rage Against the Machine and $3,000, tickets and stuff like that. Even the cheapies are $200, right? We've seen Limp Bizkit, they're kind of a meme now, right? But there's a one girl who went when she was 14. She's a mom and like a member of society now. But she was like, "Oh my god, this is like all of my favorite bands in the world in one place," and that's what it was for us. Like I remember the first time that Korn was on like Total Request Live, and I was like, "Oh my god, like we did it!" Like, not that I was a member of Korn or anything like that, but I was just like, the music that I
Fire.
like is fucking rising against like the fucking bubblegum pop of the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and Britney Spears. Like, oh yeah, we've got a dog in the hunt, you know. Like, but this is the time period where all of this happens, right? There was a bit of innocence in our culture where a lot of bad shit hadn't happened to us that have since like formed the way that we, communicate with each other, the way we travel, all of it. Like, but this is before it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's also before everybody kind of probably had an outlet. I mean, it said within the documentary itself, one of the reasons why they were so angry, especially at MTV, was because, as you said, we were bombarded with the bubblegum community. We were bombarded with your Britney Spears, even though now, love her. But at the time, it was just like, we don't want to see bubblegum pop. We want to see music. We want to hear music. And the rage of the actual crowd was probably embellished by the fact that they were so angry at MTV and then so angry at all these corporations taking so much away from them. When it came down to Woodstock, these corporations took even more from them in terms of their freedom, in terms of their hygiene, in terms of their cleanliness, in terms of their money, in terms of what they could actually do at an event that was supposed to be as big as what Woodstock is. Everything that they thought they could do in terms of Woodstock was taken away from them. And I think that's one of the reasons why they reacted the way they did. Because again, it said in the documentary itself, it said there was no TikTok, there was no Twitter, there was no social media. The only way that they could actually express themselves was physically and verbally, and they did, also with fire.
Oh yes, absolutely. That was one of the many atrocities that happened through Woodstock. But speaking of the original Woodstock, Coach Rob says, "I remember Woodstock. He was 12 years old, almost a teenager. It was historic, and the only way of watching it was on the evening news. What a movement, right?" So again, and a year later, I found out about the summer of free love, long before Coach Rob emerged, right? Ah, you got, right, exactly. So get you that free love, bro. Get it. But that's it, right? Because you were just speaking about like the medians. The medians have changed since even Woodstock '99, right? There was no Twitter, there was no social media. You had to be there. Well, Coach Rob taking it back a little bit further to '69, and like the only way you saw it is like a little like 3 second 3 minute piece on the evening news, and that was at a time where everybody got the same news, the same information, and made what they wanted out of it. It made their own assumptions, took it for whatever they felt it was worth, and attributed it to their daily life and practice. Well, now, I mean, even like cable news, and it's kind of ripped everyone apart, and caused a lot of friction in family and society and stuff like that. So much different times that we live in now.
I mean, now it's more instantaneous. It was actually one of the most. It's not comedic because it's not funny, but it was one of the few comedic moments in the documentary when the producers and the promoters are trying to almost sugarcoat and lie, basically, about what is happening, because everything was broadcasted on the evening news, something that everybody's watching at the same time. So everyone got all that information at the same time. Okay, it wasn't as instantaneous as your Twitters or your Facebooks and your TikToks, but it's the evening news. How are you expecting to lie or convert or even just kind of remove the truth when everybody is watching such a big thing all at the same time? It was really interesting to watch him sort of dig his own grave. It was actually quite funny.
Yeah. And to me, this is all negligence, right? Because like pretty early on, they introduced Woodstock '99 as something of a money making endeavor, right? Michael Lang's business partner, had said that pretty staunchly, right? We knew where we stood, right? And the egregiousness that you built the biggest bands in the world, but no, fuck all about them. Like, really, don't like
Hmm.
and yes, like this is not your mom's Woodstock. This is not your dad's Woodstock. I get that, but like, why even fucking use the Woodstock name at all? Like, I it just made me
I
feel
mean, I
like
don't know what side you stand on. I don't know what side you stand on, especially when they try and blame Limp Bizkit for a lot of the stuff that happens. But I'm not on that side or that part of that group because if they knew about anything about Limp Bizkit, anything about Fred Durst, they wouldn't have been surprised at all. Were you surprised? I wasn't at all. I was just like, yes, that's what Fred Durst does.
well, to me, right? Because like I remember all of the pay-per-views, and like I remember all of the things. There was going to be a Woodstock CD coming out. Like, and again, those were all of my favorite bands. Man, what I didn't know, I was still a fan of Kid Rock. I'm not anymore. Um, but Corn, Limp Bizkit, like there was so many acts on that build that were like my fucking shit. I think even Metallica, which they didn't even get into, but Metallica played one of the nights, and it's like Metallica at Woodstock, like what the fuck are we doing, you know? And
We were trying to cause a riot.
yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, you know, to me, the outright just denying of guilt, right? That happened with Michael Lang and anybody on the Michael Lang side of the production, right? Because like, oh, what could we have done to see that? That was the worst thing. Like, the, I remember seeing the van, right, during the Limp Bizkit set, right, and I was like, oh, I thought the same thing, like kind of like watching at home, the same thing, because I think MTV, if you didn't get a pay per view. Like I think it was like a few days later, if not the same day, but you got an edited version, right? So when I saw like the edited version on MTV, which was not too long after it happened, because I know we didn't know the horrors that went on when I was watching the MTV version of the broadcast, right? So um, I thought that van was like something, production, like almost like how Kiss does with when Ace Frehley does his solo. They send him on a riser, or WrestleMania 3, and everybody's on a golf cart, you know, getting drove to the ring. That's what I thought it was. My wrestling brain, my fucking what in '99, I was a
Yeah,
freshman
you
in
thought it
high
was a work
school.
automatically.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I was like, oh, how cool, man. The Woodstock looked so fucking awesome to me, right? And what it meant, it was awesome. DMX was there. Like, there were hip hop groups. It wasn't just like rock. Like the gamut, like of my damn CD collection was the acts that were built on the fucking Woodstock. Offspring, Metallica, DMX. I was a very angry kid, apparently. But yeah, that was my shit. So you could. This is the one place where you could see them all, right? So
That is
the
one thing
fact,
that did bother me though. Why did they miss out all the hip hop acts apart from? I mean, we saw Wyclef, but the only thing that we saw him do was play the Jimi Hendrix set. Why? I mean, Netflix. Why? Are you? Why? What? Where the brown people at? Hmm?
which I mean, for me, and also that got missed out on the HBO documentary too, right?
HBO. How dare you?
Yeah. So I mean, I like I almost feel like Hendrix because he was their type of Brown, right? Playing the rock music or whatever. Same thing with Santana, and even Santana plays like if like fourth fiddle when in comparison to like the acts that played at Woodstock '69. But it was just like, yeah, we just got glossed over. Like none of it existed, right? I think even Alanis Morissette played, right, and I don't think they showed it anywhere.
Yeah, we
You
didn't
know,
get that either.
yeah.
No,
So
we
like
only got
the
Cheryl Crow and Jewel.
in Jewel, yeah, absolutely. There were a couple other. There was at least two more female acts for sure. That I remember, but yeah, but you also got to remember it's Netflix, right? And as we were kind of doing the pre-work yesterday, um, it's weird because I don't know why they did this documentary, right? Netflix, because again, HBO already had done a two-parter on the same subject, right? And we were like, okay, and so much content has happened on all of the streaming platforms since then. A lot of has happened in the world since then that like, why are you gonna do it? And I figured like Michael Lang wasn't in the HBO documentary, right? Nobody in his camp. He was like, almost like Rob Black when they did the XPW version of Dark Side of the Ring, right? Like he wasn't there. So maybe it was like
Hmm.
I'm not knowing exactly when it was filmed, but either it was a sense of like what happened with A&E and Dark Side of the Ring with the Ultimate Warrior. A&E here in the States had a Warrior documentary, 1 hour Legends documentary, and then Vice on the other channel had the Dark Side of the Ring of the Warrior, right? So they both race to see which piece of content got put out first. So maybe it was that, and Netflix with all of the stuff that they had gone through over the last year about not having you share subscriptions and the stock plummeting and everything. Like this particular project might have gotten pushed to the back burner. When you think of like Stranger Things, the last season of Ozark, like a lot of things that were, and I'm not saying this is not befitting of a Netflix push, but like when I went to watch it yesterday, I mean, it wasn't even in like the top 10 things in Netflix, and already like already been out for maybe about 3 weeks, but it wasn't trending, So like
Yeah,
maybe it was one of those things, but also um, maybe it was Michael Lang's response, right, to not having a say or not really wanting to comment on the HBO version of it. So this is his his way of telling his side of the story. It's not like it made him look any better. I don't think you come away going like, ah, yeah, Michael Lang is like fucking awesome. Like the people there, or maybe the Woodstock promoters, were misunderstood, right? Because especially like the press conference, they had daily morning press conferences, and by day two, people were like, "What the fuck is up?" Like whatever, and I remember Michael Lang saying when they were tearing down some of the painted walls or whatever. That Pilar's mom, the photographer, she was like, hey, that's art, right? And then Michael Lang's response was like, oh, who wouldn't
they
want to?
wanted merchandise.
Yeah, who wouldn't want a souvenir from Woodstock? And I'm all like, how how
I,
how, how daft do you have to be to just like, yeah, we fucking did right. And even the bald guy, to me he was like Michael Lang's Paul Heyman, right? The balding guy was like, oh, you know, like, and I don't want to make it. I don't want to lampoon this, but going back to that van, right? And there's people jumping on top and everything like that, and they get to the van before it hits the rave tent, and the dude is fucking doped out of his mind. His eyes are fucking dilated and shit like that. And in the back, there was a 14-year-old girl that was unclothed, and
mhm.
the guy pulling up his pants
Forget
and
about the
everything.
weapons, machete.
Yeah,
Don't forget about the machete.
right. But all of this is happening, right? And he's just like, well, with that number of people, that'll happen anywhere. Like, fuck, uh, if somebody comes to your house, right, and burns themselves on the stove or cuts themselves on a sharp object, right? Do you, as the host, go, oh, you're so fucking stupid to do that, or do you go like, I need to help you? I'm going to take responsibility for you. This is my house. You're my guest, and that's it. They were just like totally almost separated from any responsibility, like physically and verbally, and in their minds, mentally separated from any type of accountability at all. And it was just stark all
Mm.
these years later. I mean, it was what? How many years since '69? How many years since '94? And then now, how many years since '99? Fuck, man! Like, and you still are not gonna be like, "Hey, my bad. Like, we should have, we should have done better." And that none of that is there.
It's just there's just absolutely no accountability. I mean, it's something that's said by most of the artists. All of the artists actually say it. You have a duty of care to the people that are there. No matter what happens, no matter what's going on, no matter how you feel at the time, as a promoter, as a production crew, as an owner, you have a duty of care. That's like somebody hurting themselves during training at my training school and me going, oh well, it's wrestling, it's you're gonna hurt yourself while they're bleeding on the floor. You have some kind of duty of care, especially when they've paid so much money and are still paying money during the event. It's not like a ticket got you all you can eat, or it was a free for all so you could do what you want. You were supposed to look after them. I mean, even down to the venue itself, one of their reasonings for having it at their airbase was the fact that there was a medical facility nearby. Did they make use of this medical facility? They probably did. But at the same time, was that medical facility completely prepared for the amount of people and the amount of chaos and the amount of lack of care that was going to happen? This medical facility was probably prepared for bumps and bruises and a few cuts, not people passing out due to heat stroke, and not people passing out due to lack of food, lack of water, um, poor hygiene facilities, trench mouth, something that people got during World War One and Two. Like, really? When I heard that that woman got trench mouth, I'm like, that's just. Uh, I
Yeah,
can't.
and the person that is talking about her particular experience with that, sores and almost maggot like stuff created around the mouth. That person was underage. So if I want, if anybody is all like, "Oh my god," like Woodstock '99, blah blah blah, but and then later they reformed. I'm like, "Oh, save our children." I'm all like, well, where was this methodology then? You had children under your watch, you had people under your watch. You know, and again, like a stark contrast from '69 to yeah, '69 to '99. And Coach Rob says, '69 it was a time of protest of the war, civil rights days. Historically, it was about love, freedom, and togetherness, and you didn't get any of that at '99, other than fucking jerk offs that wanted to shout out, show your tits to Sheryl Crow or any other female act that came up, or flinging
Mm.
literal, piles of shit at artists, and also the tale of two cities, right? This is like, what is it? An empire, right, so to speak, because like you have complete and utter chaos. This is like fucking Walking Dead on one side, right? On the festival side of things. But backstage for the artists, like they were pulling up in limos and buses and air conditioning and food that and like some people kind of knew what was wrong and didn't fucking do shit, but then there were some people that were completely oblivious to what was going on, and it was just like uh, maybe I like some people a little bit less, and but obviously there's two sides to every story, but specifically Fred Durst, right, of Limp Bizkit, right? They try to have him calm people down or whatever, and even their former manager was like, "Hey, what the fuck do you think he's gonna do? You hire him to be Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst, those guys to do that thing, and in that situation, like there's like a fucking like he was having a mental and philosophical fight within himself that you could see very clearly on camera, and not just this weird shit. Like I saw that then, right? Like, um, and then the fucking evil Fred Durst fucking wins out, and he starts crowd surfing on a fucking you know piece of fucking OBS particle board, that was probably had like the Freedom Dove on the other side of it, and he's crowd surfing while this van of horror is coming down the pipeline. It's just like the fuck, or Anthony Kiedis, was told by the mayor of Rome, New York, like, hey, don't fucking, just calm them down. And they light into fucking fire, which at the time I was like, oh god, this is one of the best fucking versions of Jimi Hendrix's Fire since Hendrix. But whatever.
And
And
then you see the fire.
and allegedly, supposedly, Anthony Kiedis might have been on the flight log to Epstein Island. Right? I mean, this really doesn't age well, and make like I said, allegedly, supposedly, nobody wants to get sued here. But yeah,
We'll
okay,
do that when the documentary comes out.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't fucking know, man. It's just really weird, right? And funny enough, right? Because like Kid Rock is here, a Kid Rock comes out in a fur coat when it's like 110 degrees, and everybody's like literally dying on the airport tarmac, a military fucking tarmac. He comes out with like fucking fur coat and sparklers and shit like that, like pyrotechnics, and that couldn't have, if you were sitting in the or standing in the front row, which you were already subject to groping and assault and the uneasiness of being front lines in that group of people. We saw in the that Selena biopic with starring Jennifer Lopez when Selena went to the particular like a state carnival or whatever, and people were pressing up against the front. Well, people got hurt. I don't, maybe people died. The Stones at Altamont. That was a horrific thing. The Who in Detroit, where they had the open seating and everybody just like they were doing sound check, and like everybody's like, "Oh my god, the concert started!" And they fucking rush to security, break open the doors, and trample anybody that was there. And that happened in '69. So I mean, you're right about the original between 69 and 71. I feel like right. But right around the within the 3-year period of the original Woodstock happening, right? So it's not like we didn't know this, right? But imagine if you had went to the fucking front row and you're like, and you survived all of this shit, and and you're there. Kid Rock comes on, and he's fucking got a fucking fur coat while you're fucking dying of dehydration, and then reaching the temperatures even more because he's got fucking pyrotechnics. Like, ah, but he also was. I mean, that's where the Ric Flair last match after party happened at Kid Rock's bar in Nashville. So here's a wrestling tie in there. You got Miz, you got Kid Rock, who has done many things with uh, with the WWE over the years. Most recently at SummerSlam, or him and the girthier girl they kissed at the SummerSlam and whatever. Um, Limp Bizkit. right? Limp Bizkit, did Rollin' for Undertaker while he was, the what did they call it? The fucking Last Ride. What version of Undertaker?
oh, oh, no, he was Big
He was a
Evil, Big Red,
Big Evil, yeah, yeah, exactly. So you know, uh,
Biker Taker, Biker Taker.
yeah, Biker Taker, right, absolutely. Um, I mean, so much so that Fred Durst is actually in that WWE video game. He's an unlockable character where you could play as Fred Durst on like PS1 SmackDown Know Your Role or some shit like that.
Which the only reason why he was in that game was because they wanted to use Rolling, and he was like, "You're not using my song unless you put me in the game."
Yeah, which is fun now because like one of the best created players by WWE 2K in the WWE 2K22 game was Logan Paul, and actually Assemble, a great channel that I watch on YouTube. He was saying like this is almost going to be the benchmark for how WWE and WWE video games specifically will present celebrities in the future because obviously we've had like the Mike Tysons and what is it, Mr. T was in one of the expansion packs and what have you for this current one, but it didn't really land right. But the Logan Paul, they fucking pulled out all the bells and whistles for that, and
Why?
yeah, so again, you go from like Fred Durst, who's like a little polygon dancing around and whatever the fuck in, SmackDown Know Your Role or whatever game that it was, but it was definitely a SmackDown one, right? That's exactly his. As he's like in going to the ring, he's like, yeah, um, and Logan Paul. So like realistically, I mean, this has like more wrestling than we even thought. Even
Did you
from the eyes of the promoter, Michael Lang himself.
you miss my number one wrestling tie-in was James Brown when they were trying to make him go out, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's they make his music hit, and to me that was like when any promoter slash wrestler says, you know what, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, and a promoter dangles a title shot in your head, and you go, yes sir, don't worry, okay, what time? Like the moment I heard that, I was like, wow, that's so wrestling.
Yes, and Coach Rob also says, don't forget that jabroni Hulk Hogan playing the Hendrix guitar tune. Yeah, during his last WWF title run, right? He was playing Voodoo Child as his entrance. Yeah,
Mm.
and yes, Hulk Hogan is a fucking jabroni forever. That guy. Yeah, um, I'll say that. But yeah, it's just weird. The fact that how egregious the lack of respect or dignity anybody, whether it be the artists, whether it be the patriot, the attendees, specifically the attendees, like they did not care. They didn't care about the health, and so like they didn't care about how the um what is it, the airfield looked after. It was an abandoned field, for many years up until that point, and that was the ideology that the the mayor of Rome, New York, where it took place, you know, kind of had in his back pocket. Like we hadn't done anything with this fucking base for at least a decade up until that point. Maybe it's something cool to kind of get the city and community all revived again. And Jesus Christ, man, this wasn't it. Like, and
And they ruined it.
they ruined it. They ruined it, and especially the fact that on the last night, and this is right after the Chili Peppers set, and a lot of the people who had worked on Woodstock, they were completely just exhausted, right? But there was this big thing about like who's going to play, who's going to close out Woodstock '99, and we hear names like Prince and Michael Jackson and the Rolling Stones, the Who, like these gigantic names in music, right? And what it ended up becoming was Michael Lang
They
deciding,
got
oh,
nothing.
yeah, they had nothing, and Michael Lang handing out 100,000 candles. so you could have the visual of like the original Woodstock. And what did they do after? And how clueless can you be? You've taken people's water, you've taken people's food, they're famished and whatever, and you notice like all throughout, and this is one thing that Pilar, the personal assistant, uh, said, like how stoic he was, like devoid of any like real emotion. Any they could throw anything at him, and he would just like no sell it essentially. So the fact that you could be that tone deaf, where you're like, oh my god, what would be better for people that have been dehydrated and starved and high and angry?
And I already hungry. You give them
Yeah,
fire.
we're gonna give him fire. Yeah, and we're gonna end the fucking concert. Like, Jesus Christ! Like, what was your reaction there?
Me personally, I just laughed, especially when the explanation for the show ending was just this set played, then they were told to go home. And I was like, oh, and you thought they were going to leave peacefully? Oh, how wrong you were! If they genuinely thought that a quarter of a million people were just going to walk out the door after they were not really promised, but they were promised a show, they were promised a festival, they were promised Woodstock, and for 3 days they got nothing of the sort, nothing to eat that was even close. So if they thought that after 3 days they were just going to end the show, like literally flip off a light and go, okay, everybody, show's over, go home, and these people were just going to leave peacefully, again, tone deaf, like you said, stupid is probably another word, naive. No, there's no innocence in it whatsoever. It's just complete disconnection. Like, I don't know if he was in his brain still living in 69, thinking that everybody was gonna go, yeah, peace, man, cool, yeah, yeah, we're just gonna go home. No, no.
No, uh, and Coach Rob says only one original. The rest was better than the rest. It was Woodstock in Charlie Brown. Remember the yellow bird in Charlie Brown? That's Woodstock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, yeah. Shout out to Coach Rob with that little factoid. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, and the song that you're speaking of is Jimi Hendrix. They put Jimi Hendrix on the fucking screen, and that's the way that they ended
And
Woodstock '99. So they thought. But how badly could you fucking disrespect Jimi Hendrix? You have Wyclef, who's not a guitar player in any stretch of the imagination.
he probably didn't even play it. He was probably just holding the guitar while it played behind him.
Oh, like fucking Little Wayne when it like, oh, watch this shit, and it's just like, or fucking Joe Jonas or Nick Jonas at the fucking Country Music Awards, are just like feral fucking cats. Like, so you disrespect Hendrix there, right, by having Wyclef, and again, hindsight 2020. This is a guy that was like when the whole Haiti fucking catastrophe happened. He was like, "Oh, send money to Haiti." He was like, "Mr. Haiti, I'm gonna run for fucking president," and turns out he embezzled 70% of that fucking money. You know, this this is this is capitalism all around. My God, um, but then the second time that they disrespected Hendrix, again, if you're a kid that didn't have an attachment to Jimi Hendrix prior to that, he's going to live in infamy because that was the last thing that you saw that was produced by the Woodstock 99 crew before fucking anarchy happens. You know, the follow, they said it was like a small town, right? This is Woodstock with the 200, 300,000 people was like a small town. Well, the thing that you remember before the whole town essentially goes fucking archaic is Jimi Hendrix's fucking iconic rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. So I'm like, God, they couldn't even fucking let Jimmy rest.
I would have rather of them just played that and not had Wyclef there. There was no. If they were gonna play that at the end anyway, why did they have Wyclef? Why?
I don't think they knew that, but what you're basically telling me is January, February, March, April, May. I hear you crying, girl. I can't stay because you'll be gone till November. You'll be gone to November. That's I think that's why, right? And to play some like Fuji's hits because they had disbanded up until that point. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I, I can't even. I don't even know how I still remember the lyrics
Hashtag
of that.
cancel with dot.
Uh, yeah, but I'm just saying, it's just fucking weird, man. I don't know, but I mean, did we cover your notes? Because you had an extensive note list,
Yes, we
Mademoiselle.
did. We went. I think we went. I did. Look, see. I don't know if anyone can. I've got terrible writing. Oh wait, no, it's blurry. Oh, it's blurring out the background because it's white. I'm sorry, but there is actual. There we go.
There we go.
There is writing on there. We did cover my list. We covered the rape accusations, which was interesting to know.
Horrible.
It was only interesting to know because there was even accusation within the mosh pit. So people were being assaulted in the mosh pit while the music was playing, while acts were overhead, and it was just like, what else did we do? No, we covered mostly everything. We did everything. American Pie. Oh no, we did. Did we cover the frat boys being influenced by American Pie and Fight Club? Which actually I've never seen Fight Club, so that reference
Neither have
doesn't
I.
even. So
Yeah, neither have I. And people are like, they will quote it because I do the MMA stuffs, and they're like, oh, what happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club, and I was like, I don't get it, like, like, there's no way that you're gonna, especially knowing what I know now of combat sports, take Brad Pitt and make him a badass. Like that's just not like fucking shout out to you, right? You're fucking badassing it out in Japan. Another good brother, fucking bad dude Tito on his first G1 tour, right? Y'all are badasses. I'm not gonna go with Brad Pitt and go like, yeah, that dude's a badass. Like, I don't even know what the fuck. I
there
guess
was
I
something
kind
we
of
did.
what.
I was gonna say the ATMs when they raided the
Oh
ATMs. Why wasn't that the
yes,
first thing that they did?
that was my. I think
I
that
would
might
have.
have been
That would have been
my
the
favorite.
first thing they did.
Yeah, but also like an ATM, right? It's kind of an institution, right? So like you're not there like, oh, we can do that. Like it took a while, at least in the timeline of this particular documentary. It took a while for them to kind of go like, oh, we're gonna fuck up the ATM. Like the third day, like they were getting charged $4 for water, which adjusted for inflation today, $4.99 in 1999 is like close to $12, right?
For a
Yeah,
bottle of water.
that's inflation. Inflation, folks. That's what everybody's all like. Ah, the inflation. That's a very good like example of it. $4.99 was closer to $12 in today's currency, yeah, at least here in the states. So yeah, like, but it took them like until day three to like, oh, we're gonna fucking take out the ATM.
I would have done it
But
on day two. The moment I realized you were charging me $4 for a bottle of water, which was probably a 250 ml bottle of water, I would have
yeah,
crashed.
but also you did like, oh, you see all these like peace patrol motherfuckers, and you're like, what you think of like
Who are
traditional
not
security.
cops.
No, but think
They're
of,
not cops.
well,
They
okay,
got no
I'm
guns.
gonna
They have
out them.
flashlights.
I'm gonna
Wow.
out them. The worst like security experience that I have ever experienced, and I have gotten that corroborated by many of people, including I don't want to add them, but there have been people that have said the worst security experience that they've had in any venue in LA is none other than the Forum in Inglewood, California, and I can attest to that. I went to a Bellator. It was the Grand Prix where AJ McKee beats Patricia Pitbull, and I had floor seats. The seats are uncomfortable, so I sat in the riser above the floor. Now, mind you, my ticket was for the floor, but the comfortable seats, that because like my tailbone was fucked up and shit like that. The comfortable seats were just, the stadium style seats that had more cushion than the ones on the floor. So I went up there, and the fucking security guard was like, "Go back to your seat, or you're gonna get fucking 86 out of the venue." And I'm like, "I paid for better seats. I'm sitting here because what are you gonna do to accommodate me?" I was like, "Oh," and they wanted me to switch seats to the fucking nosebleeds. Yeah. So again, right? There's a show of force, right? Where I can't get into this fucking fight with this asshole because there's like 200 of these motherfuckers there, right? And if I get him, but the rest of them get me, it's not really going to work out for him, right? So, with that all being said, right, still on day two, the patrons of Woodstock 99, they're still on the auspices. Like, there's some sort of order still here. So, it wasn't until third night that they were like, there's no order. They're nothing. They don't give a shit about us. We're gonna fucking take every bit of merch. We're gonna take food. We're gonna fucking raid the damn ATMs. That happens day three, which I get. And also a lot of them were under under a particular substance or a lot of substances or whatever. So, I mean, you got to fucking figure out what a fucking ATM is and then how to fucking break into it. Like that's it. They're on another level. Like when you're fucking floating around in Mars, you're not thinking about this earthly fucking ATM. I'm just saying.
True. True.
Yeah.
Still, it would have been day two. Day two would have been the day where I trashed that thing. And like this tiny little plastic box, that would be mine. I would have hauled it up to my tent, carry it on my shoulders.
I love I love
Um,
the two wrestling references, even though you didn't know you did it. But mine, which is Georgie Animal Steel's little stuffed buddy, and Carry On, right? Carry On Cross just re-debuted for SmackDown a couple weeks ago. Shout out to him and Scarlett. But yeah, man, that's it. Um, which closing thoughts on Woodstock '99?
I feel bad that that was the final and that tainted the name of Woodstock. I feel bad for every artist from the original, and I hope that everybody goes back and watches 69 and remembers how great it was. I mean, I wasn't even alive and I had to, go back and watch this. I just had to make myself feel a little bit better about life.
No, 100%, 100%. You need to. That's you get dirty and you fucking take a shower, right? Like you kind of needed like a sobering, like a shower or some sort, because this just make you feel dirty about the bands that you dug that played the sucking menagerie of a fuck show. The promoters, Michael Lang is forever a heel in my book. Um, didn't give a shit about anyone, and that actually taints all of Woodstock to me, knowing that he's a part of it. Um, Even like Sir Geldof, right? Like what happened? His wife passes away, and he take care of not only her kids, their kids together, but the ones that she had with Michael Hutchins from In Excess, right? And still raising them, So like, there's not any of that. There's not any redeeming qualities of Michael Lang, right? He was kind of a mysterious figure, 69, 94, but he's full on fucking heel by 99. So, yeah, man. Just saying.
So you're saying you probably should have stayed a silent partner.
Yeah, but also it wouldn't have worked if it weren't for Michael Lang of Woodstock 69 and flashing those iconic imageries that we have of him talking to or Martin the Hoople, or you know Jerry Garcia or whoever the fuck was at Woodstock 69. You know, like for this to even be entertained, both 94 and 99, you have to have Michael Lang as as a front person, which I'm get. We're gonna go off air. I'm gonna tell you exactly who I think a wrestling equivalent of Michael Lang is. Yes. So, but before we
X.
go off air, yes, thank you guys. And Coach Rob says, Coach Rob approves Amazon. Love this girl. That's I'm just saying.
Yay.
Yes,
Yay.
yes. Yeah, so to get more of the love that you expel and the beatdowns that you are administering there in Japan, because you are there live right now from Japan as you're on tour with Seedlings doing a 1 year deal, where can people find you to see you do the fisticuffs?
You can see me do the fisticuffs. Either you can go to seedling.com and see the entire schedule for Seedling from forever, or you can go to Seedling Live and stream all the shows live. Not only that, but if you buy a pass to the show, you get to stream it for 6 days onwards, and that's Seedling Live. Alternatively, you can type in at Amazon Ayesha Ray into every social media platform, and you get this wonderful, slightly right now sweat-ridden face because it's 43 degrees. Echo.
I love it. I love it. It's getting
God.
pretty. It's getting pretty hot here in California too. But I'm According to Woods. You can literally type in According to Woods on the Google machine or DuckDuckGo if were have me on a tab with porn, and I don't judge. But anyway, According to Woods is where you get the podcast, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. That's where the principal podcast is. All the other socials like the Instagram and the Twitter. I got memes. I got fucking memes for days and weeks and shit like that. Usually put to music. So follow me there. I got you. I got you. But you guys have been beautiful. You're amazing. But if go ahead and subscribe to the channels, also on bodyslam.net. But if you don't believe me or Aisha to fucking subscribe to the channels, here's Zeta Zhang for you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to